Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bob Pompiani. We're live here at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex, getting set for a Tomlin Tuesday. Mike Tomlin's weekly press conference. This week, looking ahead to the Philadelphia Eagles, the only undefeated team left in the NFL. They're 6-0. They're coming off a bye week. They've been very impressive, and what an atmosphere in Philadelphia this month with the Phillies now going to the World Series and the Eagles undefeated. Flyers still struggle, of course. We won't mention that. But meantime, the Steelers are in a situation where they are coming off a game they could have won, maybe should have won. They 16-10 losers in Miami. Some very nice things happened in that game in terms of Kenny Pickett, a 13-play, 86-yard drive, and then a couple of very costly interceptions at the end, all part of being a young rookie quarterback in this league. So there's a lot to talk about with that game and also looking ahead to Philadelphia. Let's go upstairs. Mike Tomlin live.
Good afternoon. I'll start with a synopsis of our last performance, as I always do. You know, after the game, I said if I had to one-line it or summarize the performance in one line, I'd say that they took advantage of their interception opportunities and we didn't. And in further analysis, that's still probably, my high-level perspective on it. Obviously, there's a lot of variables at play in terms of determining winning and losing. But the turnover component of the game being as significant as it is, putting offenses on short fields and things of that nature, increasing the probability of scoring, I just thought that was significant. And another reason I thought it was significant is, it's one of the things that we stressed in game prep, that we would get our hands on some balls potentially in play, and the quality of our play would be defined by whether or not we were able to catch them as a defense or not, and we weren't. And so there are consequences of that. Obviously, we did some good things in the red area, and that minimizes their scoring, and we found our rhythm over the second half of the game and got off the field. But we didn't do a good enough job of taking advantage of those opportunities and thus putting our offense on the short field. Their group did put their offense on a couple of short fields, and I think that's essentially the difference in the game. We were able to drive the field over the second half of the game offensively, but we were seemingly always on the long field, and things happen, whether it's penalties and then putting us behind the chains and then turnovers as the sand ran through the hourglass. I just thought that we could have helped our collective effort if we minimized that -3 component of the turnover game and delivered a short field for our offense, and obviously kept them on longer fields. I thought a component of the game also that shaped how the game unfolded, if you will, is, oftentimes when we're the first time in the stadium versus a new group, Tua, Coach McDaniels, their weapons, it takes a while for you to get a feel of how they function and what it is that we need to do to minimize it. And I thought that could have been reflective of us as a defense kind of early on, left-handed quarterback and some of the things that they do. I thought as the game wore on, we got more comfortable with getting a feel. Oftentimes, particularly when you got a right-handed quarterback during the course of the week and you actually had a left-handed quarterback in stadium, I just thought it took us a minute to get our bearings, and that's why they were able to put together a couple of drives there early. But I like the fact that our guys didn't blink. They realized it's a 60-minute game. We were able to work our way back into it. But, again, I thought their turnovers and our lack of turnovers down the stretch became the storyline after the initial start. From a health standpoint, Levi Wallace is being evaluated for his shoulder. His availability is in question. Josh Jackson has got a groin. I don't know that his availability is in question, but it may affect his participation at the early portions of the week. Some guys that are on IR, like T.J. Watt and Calvin, I got no update. As I sit here today, their inclusion this week is highly unlikely, and so there's no news there. And so the rest of it's bumps and bruises associated with play. All the concussion protocol guys had no issue coming out of the last game, and so we lean in on this week's prep with a clean slate, if you will, as we get started toward Wednesday. Now let's talk about this week's challenge, man, the Philadelphia Eagles. Undefeated group in their venue is an awesome challenge. I see some really tangible reasons why they're undefeated, to be quite honest with you. They're plus 12 in the turnover game. They've gotten 14 turnovers on defense. They got corners who are a veteran group. They're highly ball aware. They got good ball skills. They got a front that applies pressure and creates an environment where turnovers happen. They're highly ball aware. If you watch their sack reel, their rushers are not only trying to take down the quarterback, but they're trying to take down the ball, and they get a lot of sack fumbles because of it. That's a component of it that produces the plus 12, but also they've only turned the ball over 2 times in 6 football games. They're unbelievably efficient in terms of maintaining possession of the ball, and it starts with their quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Man, I just got so much respect for him in the way he plays the position, his intangible quality, his leadership skills, his prudent decision-making, his prudent use of mobility at the position. It's all really good, and that's why they have very little negativity in their offense. They utilize his mobility schematically in situational moments. It's challenging for the defense on possession downs in the tight red. I think he's got 6 touchdowns via the ground. And so that turnover component and his prudent decision-making, his ball security, and the ball skills in that secondary are the reasons, significant reasons why they're an undefeated group. I'll get in more detail because obviously it goes beyond that. On offense, Jalen's got an awesome collection of eligibles to throw the ball to. A.J. Brown is a big and strong guy who's tough to get on the ground after the catch. He's got strong hands. He's a combat catcher. The other 2 primary guys, Smith and Watkins, man, are skedaddlers. I mean, they can get out of town on you. They can take the top off the coverage. They're quality players. They got really good tight ends. They utilize them well to supplement their run and misdirection passing game. And in interior verticals, man, their tight ends are awesome. They got a veteran kind of an offensive line group, man. When you got guys like Lane Johnson and Kelsey, man, that's been around as long as they've been, they're anchor points, if you will, of the group. And I see good continuity within that group. And so when you talk about the cast of eligibles, a strong offensive line group and a quarterback that has mobility and uses it appropriately and makes good decisions, you see why they're doing the things that they're doing. And hadn't even mentioned the 4-1-2er. Miles, who is a quality running back. And so they got a good offense. They got good players at all positions. It's going to be a big-time challenge from our perspective. And when they have weapons like that, it's not about shutting them down and stopping everything that they do. It's about prioritizing when we get focused on what components of their offense. And so we got a lot of meeting to do in terms of addressing that. And obviously, we've got to put together a really good plan, and we got to go out and execute that plan. From an offensive perspective, I think it starts first and foremost with their front and how do we minimize their impact on the game. Guys like Fletcher Cox and Javon are catalysts for what goes on over there. You couple that with Jordan Davis, who they drafted in round 1. I mean, it's tough sledding inside and up front versus this group. They got quality edge people as well. I don't think Brandon Graham gets enough recognition for the body of work that he's been able to put together since 2010. I remember when he came out of Michigan, the one line I wrote on him was like, Lil Lamar Woodley. You know, I mean, that's how long ago that was, man, 2010. This guy has been playing at a high level for a long time, and just got a lot of respect for him. They picked up Hassan in free agency. He's a quality edge guy, Sweat. They run deep up front. They got quality players. They've invested a lot in them. They got quality depth, and those guys provide the wave that the rest of their group rides. They're fundamentalists. They do a good job of keeping a lid on it. And as I mentioned, that corner tandem in Bradbury and Slay, man, they're Grizzly veterans. They know what they're doing. They're highly aware. They got good ball skills. They're gunfighters, man. They've lived that life outside those numbers, man, in the National Football League, and they know what it's about. They're built for it. Their resume says so. And so we're excited about this challenge. We respect it. We got some work ahead of us in prep and then ultimately in play. And I'll pause there and open it up for questions.
You mentioned the start to the game. Do you feel the last 2 games your defense is getting back at least where you would hope it would be and expect it to be?
You know, yes. But again, you know, we got to get more pressure on the quarterback. We got to find ways to do that, and particularly when you're faced with the challenge that we're faced with this week from a quarterback mobility standpoint, we got to get home more, and so that's something that could increase the turnover opportunities that we lacked, particularly last week.
Coach, you mentioned the Eagles' front push. Your offense uses a lot of jet sweeps. Is that to help your young offensive line? And secondly, do you think, you seem to use more jet sweeps than anybody else in the league. Has that been effective this season for you?
It's about making the defense defend all the gaps across the field, C gap, D gap, E gap, and then sometimes expanding gaps. And it's not about what happens when you do it. It's about making them respected and maybe creating some interior run lanes as well. It's just a function of ball. It's not anything earth-shattering or even innovative at this point, to be quite honest with you. Everybody in football, every week I'm turning on tapes and I see jet sweeps coming from just about anybody in an effort to control those perimeter gaps and maybe create more space inside.
Do you think they've been effectively run this season?
At times they've been really effective. At times they've been popcorn. They've been hit or miss.
What can you guys do as an offense to get more chunk plays?
Keep working. Keep working. With continuity, it raises your floor. When you raise your floor and you minimize negativity, you increase the potential for positivity. And so sometimes the changes that need to occur aren't significant ones. They're just continuing to work and understanding that the dam's going to break in terms of those opportunities happen. I know staying on schedule and not being behind the chains is a component of that as well.
Along those lines, you guys do run a lot of vertical routes, but guys aren't always targeted on some of those go routes. What has to happen for more of that to get mixed in? Is it a matter of what the defense is showing you or just needing to take those chances?
There's so many variables in that discussion. Pick one.
Is there something that you would like to see more balls being thrown to go routes?
It really just depends on what you're referencing. I'd have to have a collection of plays or a specific instance. You run go balls and vertical routes all the time. Sometimes they're to clear out underneath routes. Sometimes it's for critical one-on-one matchups, and which may not occur because of schematics. Sometimes guys don't physically win those one-on-one matchups. Sometimes rush becomes a factor. The variables are many when you're talking about that. And so I wasn't trying to avoid your question. It's many layers to that discussion. But those are some of the global reasons why.
That last play there when Kenny decided to throw the ball, looked like he had some room to run. Have you talked to him about that after watching the film? And I'm curious to know when he's allowed to kind of let his instincts
I haven't specifically one-on-one had a discussion with him regarding it. I know that it's been a topic of discussion among him and the offensive coaches, and there's opportunity for growth. And what was the second part of your question?
When's he's allowed to let his instincts to run take over there? He's
always allowed. You got to give a quarterback latitude to do what comes natural, particularly those with mobility. The only framework that I put on it is I say the prudent use of mobility, because with quarterback mobility comes exposure and risk, and so we need to proceed prudently. And that's the only guardrails, if you will, that I put on them from that perspective.
2 points of clarification that might have come through since the end of the game. First of all, did you get any clear indication on the motion penalty, the illegal shift rather? Was that Chooks rocking back?
It was.
It was? All right.
And I didn't get clarification. I saw the video.
And the second point, this is more global. It feels like it's happened a lot lately, and that's the interception when the referees converged and talked about it before it went to review and came up with a different conclusion. Are you all right with that, or does that process need to...
All turnovers are reviewable anyway, and so it's not a time element or component to it. I'm completely fine with what transpired there mechanically among the officiating staff. The big plays, the significant plays, meaning we, the National Football League, want to get right, and that's why all turnovers and touchdowns are reviewable and reviewed, and so I got no issue with that process whatsoever.
Mike, you mentioned Calvin Austin earlier. Time seems to be running out for him to be activated. Are you having an indication he could be ready to be activated? Or
I hadn't asked. It's the early portions of the week. We've been more into schematics and the game plan, and I'm sure I'll get some clarification a little later, maybe even later on today. It just hadn't been high priority for me at this juncture. This guy hadn't played in a stadium yet anyway. He hadn't played in a preseason stadium, and so it's more about development for him. And that's the perspective that I have. I'm just being realistic up or down, active or inactive, his overall readiness this weekend is probably not a high probability. And I'm just being straightforward.
Mike, you mentioned the issues with dealing with a left-handed quarterback and practicing and not being able to practice against that. Do you bring somebody else in to work as a more mobile quarterback, or do you have the guys that you have on the roster work that kind of?
You know, it's always a component of it. When you got a quarterback with extreme mobility, sometimes you have a wide receiver reflect certain components of their offense, knowing that you're losing the passing component. It's not anything new. It's old hat. It's issues that you sort through when you're dealing with quarterback mobility. We have extreme quarterback mobility in our division, so rest assured we have experience in terms of that discussion.
Mike, more broadly, you've been in situations in the past where the team started slowly, you rallied back to have a winning season. Is there anything that defines those turnarounds you can lean on now in this situation?
I'm not looking to lean on it. That's my experience, not necessarily this collective's experience. And so my focus is on the challenges and the variables that apply to this group.
Mike, there was a 3rd and 1 in the 4th quarter where Najee got stopped before the first down. You guys were outnumbered on that side. Is he supposed to call a timeout audible or just run that?
We were working at pace in an effort to catch them off guard. And sometimes when you work at pace, there's risk-reward associated with it. They provided a look and made a good play. And those are some of the challenges of making pace a weapon. When you increase the pace in an effort to catch them off guard, there's risk-reward associated with that. And that conversation is as simple as that.
Mike, you mentioned the turnovers. Philadelphia only has 2. What's your talk with Kenny about interceptions? Is it growing pains? What's leading to some of the mistakes he's making?
I'm not overly communicating those conversations. He's playing to win. There's some things to be learned, but they're not producing unusual conversations between he and I regarding that. We got to take care of the ball every week. That's our mindset. I'm just highlighting the reasons why Philadelphia is a 6-0 group. But in terms of our agenda, our preparedness, our focus, how we develop our plans and his role in it, ball security is a significant component week in and week out.
Mike, this offense has been a big talking point. You said in the past that you're open to change if it would produce better outcomes. Why is now not the time to make a change?
Because I don't feel like I'm there.
Mike, James Pierre got some more snaps. I think he even started. What did you see about him that you used him out there?
It was due to circumstance. You know, we were running thin at corner, and he had an opportunity to ascend, and he's taking advantage of it. And that's what this journey is about. That's what team is about. One man's misfortune is another man's opportunity, and he's gotten some and probably going to continue to get some as we deal with guys working their way back from injury, and particularly at that position. There were 2 guys that I read on the injury report just a couple moments ago at that position, and so that might create opportunity for guys like him.
Coach, Devin Bush looked to be getting back to his former self pre-injury. What did you make of his performance?
I agree, but I think that's been the storyline regarding him for the 2022 season.
We talked about the pass rush needing to improve, get more pressure on the quarterback. You finding that to be more related to just not winning one-on-one battles when they're there, or do you have to scheme around?
Sometimes it's the schematics of the group that you play. Miami was a rhythm passing RPO group, and you're just not going to take those quarterbacks down a bunch. You're not. The ball comes out too quick. The nature of how they protect, they gap scheme protect, they don't have a lot of one-on-ones. They slide the line this way. They have 2 additional guys off the edge that way as they play fake. And so we knew it wouldn't be a big turnover. I mean, it wouldn't be a big sack game going into that game by the structure of what it is that they do. You knew it probably wouldn't be a big sack game against Tampa because Tom is Tom. And so there are a lot of variables beyond just winning one-on-ones if you're just looking at the get-home component. I think the pressure component is probably, what I'm more interested in terms of minimizing some of the other variables, offensive schematics and all of that. When you're rushing good, you have consistent pressure, and you dictate to them as opposed to, the sack being a statistic that reflects pressure.
Mike, talking back about Devin, You talked about the adjustments that you guys made defensively and, to how they were attacking the middle part of the field. How much of his athleticism and communication, along with Miles Jack, was part of defending that? Because he broke up a pass to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I don't know if there were adjustments as more as it was just us getting the feel. I don't know that there were a lot of significant changes in terms of what we were doing. We just detailed it, had a few necessary conversations, got some of our guys closer to some of their guys, and obviously his athleticism is a component of that, but his athleticism has been a component of the reason why he's here. You like athletic linebackers that from time to time and certain underneath matchups are capable of occupying space with more athletic guys, knowing that there's help over the top, et cetera, and he's certainly capable of that.
Kenny Pickett's been thrown into a couple difficult situations going in the middle of a game and then last game trying to lead you guys down to score. How have you seen him respond to those kind of situations, those moments?
He is a fish in water. It's a natural act for him. He's a competitor. He's got a thirst for it. It's been fun being in them circumstances. Obviously, we want the outcomes to be different, but to communicate with him professionally and to watch him operate, to watch his demeanor, to watch his approach to them circumstances is exciting and refreshing.
Seems like every week he's building a stronger connection with George Pickens. Just what have you seen out of their rapport and how has that developed?
I would imagine that the same could be said for all of his eligibles, and I would expect, it's reasonable to expect that to continue. They've made some plays, but again, I think kind of a catalyst for him moving forward and minimizing negativity is to not get zeroed in on any particular eligible, to take what defenses give them and do some of those things. And obviously Chase made a lot of plays in Tampa, merited some attention in this game, and Deontay merits attention just each and every week. He's the more senior of all the guys, and so he created some opportunity. It also created some opportunity for Pat Freiermuth, and so I think that's why you surround him with quality eligibles, so he has a complete arsenal and he can make rhythmic decisions based on what's being presented to him, and I know that that's his and our intentions.
Mike, you talk about it being a natural act for Kenny, having a thirst for that after those interceptions and Jets this game. Do you talk to him about that, remind him of that, and tell him those things to keep him up?
Not necessary. We have plenty of conversations. We have conversations about those plays. We have conversations about other plays. But the depths of those conversations are so much deeper than what you reference. It's yes.
Mike, in games, when you're seeing progress and how things are working out with certain matchups and certain players like George Pickens or Pat Freiermuth, are there discussions when it's like, hey, we need to find ways to get the ball? Are there things your staff has to do to help Kenny in those situations?
Those discussions are continual and each and every week. In all three phases.
Mike,
That's just football.
How much time did you spend with Hurts in the pre-draft process? Did you get to know him?
Very little. Very little.
Like, I'm curious with George Pickens, he has that physical playing style, plays with an edge as well. Those were some things that maybe deterred some teams from him because of the fight and whatnot in his college career. Where do you draw that line with him? Because some of that is surely a good thing, but then obviously don't want him to cross that line.
I don't even understand where that's coming from, man. This guy is doing everything that we ask him to do. He's playing good ball. A lot of people have incidences in their college background. I'm certainly not going to hold that against him. We did our due diligence. We were completely comfortable with his character. He has displayed that since he's been here, and so I somewhat resent that.
Mike, Kevin Dotson had some costly penalties for you guys against Tampa Bay. How did you see him respond to the challenge this week?
It was better. It was better, but we got a lot of work to do, obviously, just in terms of minimizing negativity. You mentioned the motion penalty or the procedural penalty on third down and one was significant. So just as a collective, we got continued room for growth there.
One more thing on Pickens. When he's not making catches, he's looked to be a very proficient blocker and looks like he has a lot of fun doing it. Just what in that element of his game excites you and attracted you to him?
He loves to play football. He's a competitor. The guys that love to play football, it shows up in everything that they do. It doesn't matter whether it's something specific to their job. On Fridays, we field onside kicks at the end of practice, and Minka is always the last guy on the field fielding onside kicks. He loves football. He likes to work at it. He loves to was seemingly the drudgery. And I think you could say the same thing about George. He loves to play. He's excited when he makes plays. He's excited when other people make plays. He's good with the ball. He's good without the ball. He's a football player. He loves to play.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we welcome in Missy Matthews, Steelers.com, Steelers TV, and interesting take on Kenny Pickett about the mobility. He has the latitude to do whatever he wants as long as he uses prudent sense of this mobility. In other words, don't put yourself at risk, which is hard to do if you're trying to move. Some of these guys, like Josh Allen, seem to want it. Jalen Hurts has run the ball an awful lot, so I get what he's saying there. But it's interesting to note that he has full kind of autonomy to make that move if he wants to.
Yeah, and I think even going back to that last interception, not utilizing it, something that Kenny immediately after the game said that he wishes he did in hindsight. And of course, I think any of the 3 interceptions he would want back, but that one in particular, just knowing who knows what would have happened after, but if you got out of bounds and you were able to take just a few more shots, the game could have ended very differently.
Yeah, that's all part of the growing process, growing pains with a young quarterback. He's going to go through it, but there are a lot of good things to talk about in that game for Kenny Pickett. We'll detail some of those and look ahead to the Philadelphia Eagles coming up, 6-0 football team, and they're doing a lot of good in terms of protecting the football. Mike Tomlin made that a key point today. We'll do it when we come back right here live, Pittsburgh CW and Steeler digital platforms.
This place is juiced up.
Especially in that first quarter, what changed after that and kept you guys in it?
Coaches talked about they was gonna come out with their first 15, and I guess their flavor of the day was at RPO. So once we kind of simmered down, figured out what they was doing, we made some adjustments and kind of got a better hold of that. But that's a dynamic offense, you know what I mean? So they're gonna get theirs, but I really like how our defense weathered the storm towards the end. I mean, obviously you want to start out better and try to put the offense in better scenarios, but I like how we picked it up. Nobody got mad. Nobody got down. We just continued playing. And even throughout the third and fourth quarter in crunch time, I felt like defensively we really strapped up.
Your defense shut down Miami's offense in the second half. You guys also played strong last week against Tampa. What's the key difference compared to the first several weeks?
I feel like we're gelling together at the right time. I think everything's coming together. Guys are figuring out where they need to be. We're implementing roles. Coaches are, I think they're getting a better feel of what we got and I feel like it's all coming together at the same time. We're a special defense. We're capable of a lot of things. You know, we got to start out stronger. You know what I mean? Different things. Like, for example, the story of the day today was just starting out strong in that first quarter because it started out crazy, but then we got it together.
One of those big stops for you guys was the fourth down that you came up with the tackle. Can you just walk us through that play?
Yeah, Coach called. I don't want to get well. Yeah, Coach called a man play. I got a little bit wider, thinking the back was going to flare out. So I really kind of gave up the A gap. I forget who was the 3 take. He really closed off that A gap, and I was able to just run down, jump in there, and get on the play. So shout out to my D line. They've been doing their thing, and I felt like they really held it down today. It was a great performance by them.
Honestly, you feel like it's coming together in time?
Absolutely. Like, even scenarios like where we get thrown out in midfield, I think it's like 2 or 3 minutes left in the game. Everything looks bad. We all run out there. We all looking at each other like it's not over. We about to get this stop and put our offense back on the field. So the confidence, that's the main thing, because it's one thing to have a bunch of guys out there, but when everybody can trust everybody and know that everybody's going to hold down their spot and you don't have to, you just focus on your job, that's when special things happen. And I feel like we're coming along.
He is a fish in water. It's a natural act for him. He's a competitor. He's got a thirst for it. It's been fun being in them circumstances. Obviously, we want the outcomes to be different, but to communicate with him professionally and to watch him operate, to watch his demeanor, to watch his approach to them circumstances is exciting and refreshing.
It's Mike Tomlin talking about Kenny Pickett and some of the intangibles and tangibles he brings. I think we saw a glimpse of what he can do on a regular basis on that 13-play, 86-yard drive in Miami, because you saw a little bit of his ability to move, good decision-making about when to move, and also the pass to Pickens, which was terrific. It had to, people are going to talk about the catch, Missy, which was great, but he had to put the ball in the window that was available to him, and it wasn't that big of a window.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it was their longest touchdown drive of the season, of course, you know, you're going to focus on the 3 interceptions. He now has 7 through 12 quarters, but that touchdown drive really showed what this young offense can do when all things are working right, when there is no miscommunication, when guys are doing what they're supposed to do, and they really just needed to be able to do that just one more time throughout that second half. It was just trading punts back and forth and turnovers on downs and interceptions for them, but I think that does give you the glimmer of hope of, hey, this can work. It's just a matter of getting everybody onto the same page.
Yeah, there's no question, and this is the throw I'm talking about. Pickens is capable of doing that, and Kenny Pickett has talked about his ability as a pass catcher. So you just want to give him the chance. He did. He pulls that one in, and longest drive of the season right there. At the time, it looked like it turned to momentum. I will say this, even later in the game, before those interceptions, they were moving the ball. They had opportunities twice to win that game, and I guess that's part of the discovery phase of being a rookie.
Yeah, and even on going back to this touchdown drive, Kenny Pickett was 8 for 8, 64 yards, and then, of course, the 7-yard throw that George Pickens caught. Even heading into this game, once he was cleared from concussion protocol, Kenny Pickett was asked a lot about Pickens and just their chemistry prior to heading to Miami, and he said he made one of the best catches I've ever seen in my life, and he was talking about a play in practice last week. I think that's just the type of wide receiver and the player that the Steelers got in the draft this year, and being that those two guys are the same rookie class, they've been together since rookie minicamp. They've had a chance to work with each other, even heading out to California to go to the rookie premiere. Even off the field, there is a chemistry building there, which is good to see. But as Coach said, you know, you can't feed it to just one player. We saw a huge game from Pat Freiermuth. He also came off of concussion protocol, and being able to spread the ball around. Chase Claypool was the guy last game. So it'll be interesting to see how this offense continues to evolve and getting more guys involved all the time, not just in certain situations.
I think it's especially interesting to see a rookie get that many people involved. 8 different receivers against the Dolphins on Monday. Mike Tomlin talked a little bit about that earlier today.
Kind of a catalyst for him moving forward and minimizing negativity is to not get zeroed in on any particular eligible, to take what defenses give them and do some of those things. And obviously, Chase made a lot of plays in Tampa, merited some attention in this game, and Deontay merits attention just each and every week. He's the more senior of all the guys, and so he created some opportunity. It also created some opportunity for Pat Freiermuth, and so I think that's why you surround him with quality eligibles, so he has a complete arsenal, and he can make rhythmatic decisions based on what's being presented to him. And
yeah, you know, before that interception, the ones at the end, I thought one of his best throws for Kenny Pickett was in the middle of the field. It was a 4th down play to Freiermuth. It was very well covered. He had to put it only where the receiver can get it, and Freiermuth made the catch. And at that point, you're thinking they're going to go down and potentially win this game.
Yeah, and I feel like Freiermuth, even when Mitch Trubisky was at quarterback, was available in the middle of the field, especially towards, you go back to the end of the Cincinnati game that they came back. He's just been that security blanket for the Steelers quarterbacks. I know tight ends are typically known as that, but you know, Freiermuth is definitely putting on a good season. Unfortunately, he had that setback where he had to miss time with a concussion, but definitely something we've just seen the growth between him and Zach Gentry. We've seen Connor Hayward a lot as well. You know, I think with him coming off concussion protocol, we saw those guys maybe a little bit more than we normally would have.
And you saw the beginning of this clip, Kenny Pickett rolling to his right. I think you're going to see more of that as this season rolls on. Just the ability to move the pocket around, make defenders run after him a little bit, create more space. And 88 is going to be a big part of this. You're right, Missy. They seem to have this connection. They like each other a lot. They hang out together, and I think it reflects on the football field as well.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the run game is something we've been talking about week after week as well, and that's something that can also help Kenny Pickett, a rookie quarterback, kind of get his bearings. This was, you know, a Sunday night game. I don't want to say it was a hostile environment because there were plenty of Steelers fans down in Miami, but imagine what he's walking into in Philadelphia, similar to what he experienced in Buffalo. So again, hopefully this offense, they're young, they're very new to each other, they keep taking steps forwards, and especially going against the undefeated Eagles. You cannot turn the ball over. They have to take care of it this week.
Yeah, Eagles plus 12 on that. You mentioned the running game of the Steelers. It hasn't been, at least results-wise, what you would expect with Najee Harris being in the backfield. Jalen Warren's got more time third down. I think in order for play action to work, you got to have a better run game, and so far they just haven't done it, although last week was probably some of the better numbers we've seen. You just can't operate when you're averaging, 60 yards for your main man and less than 100 in a game. It's got to be better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Coach Tomlin was asked today, you've said before you would make changes if necessary to improve the offense. Why have you not done so? He just simply said he doesn't feel like he's there yet. So interesting to see. Obviously, they head to Philadelphia, then it's the bye week. Will changes be made? We don't know. I think, depending on the outcome and what happens. But at some point, I think also, consistency has to take over slightly in order to try to give guys a chance to gel. But then again, it's all about winning football games. So it's one of those things, which way do you go with it?
One other thing that people might be wondering on Twitter, I see a lot of this about Calvin Austin. While Mike Tomlin did not say directly what's going to happen, the window for him is tomorrow. And it sounded as if Calvin Austin, who hasn't played all year, won't be activated, which means he'll probably lose the season. And as far as TJ Watt, it seems like the designated return time for him would be after the bye week. That seems logical, and nothing happened today that made me think it's going to change this week.
Yeah, Coach said he did not feel like either TJ Watt or Calvin Austin III would be included this week as they prepare for the Eagles. The good thing, though, is that TJ Watt did do a normal pregame warm-up for him in Miami. Now, it didn't start his window yet, but that's telling me that he's close. He's getting there, so hopefully it is after the bye week. I think the Steelers.
You saw that first stand down there, so it was a legit.
It was a normal TJ Watt. He brought out the bands that he usually puts on the goalpost.
Right.
He did a lot of stuff with Marcel Pastor, the assistant strength and conditioning coach. So he worked up a pretty good sweat. He still went inside the locker room and continued with his normal pregame rituals. So it was a good sight to see. Obviously, maybe not soon enough for this week, but hopefully it's just a matter of weeks before we see him.
All right, the Steelers will try to get to 3-5. It's a very important game as they head into a bye week. Like to get a win and then look at the second half of the season. We'll talk more about the defense coming up because they started slowly, but boy, they made some adjustments in this game. And when you limit a team to just 16 points, you would think you're going to win a game like this. Just did not happen. We'll get into the defense and what's happening there when we come back. This is the Mike Tomlin press conference every Tuesday, Pittsburgh CW and Steelers digital platforms.
Welcome back to Ford Truck Talk. Today we're looking at the new F-150.
The official truck of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow, did you see that lane change?
Another smooth play by the F-150 with great execution of that parallel park job.
Absolutely stunning.
Newcomers take note.
And now you too can win this Ford F-150.
Professional, show-stopping, built Ford tough. But we shouldn't expect anything else from the best-selling trucks in Pittsburgh.
We got off to a pretty rough start. How do you feel like you guys were able to settle things down and not let it get out of hand after 13-0 real fast?
I feel like we was always settled because we knew we are away. So you know what I mean? So we knew if it wasn't a good start, it was going to be a rough start. You know what I mean? Because we already in an away game. So we knew we was going to have to come out and battle and then face adversity if anything.
Najee said one of the most frustrating parts of this was those pre-snap penalties. Just how do you guys combat those?
Yeah, I'll probably say the same thing. It kind of killed us in terms of that. But then again, you kind of got to, play the game because some of them weren't even penalties, to be honest.
George, are you ready for more?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just whenever, opportunities come, and then next game, same thing. It's just a routine every game, so I just try to do my best.
Do you want that football thrown away from you in the end zone? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I kind of get what you're saying, but like with me, you can throw it anywhere. I'm gonna just try to go make a play.
Right.
George, I know the goal is scoring points here, but you guys were able to move the ball somewhat effectively those last couple of drives. I mean, can you take anything positive away from that?
Literally what you just said. Literally, moving the ball effectively in the running game. A couple weeks prior to that, we was doing that, but not as effective as today. So I feel like today we really put emphasis on the running game, and it worked. It worked to a certain extent.
You guys are 2-5 right now. I mean, where do you guys go from here? Do you feel like you're running out of time to kind of turn this around?
I wouldn't feel like, running out of time, because, you know, all you got to do is just keep working. You'll catch up to the time, however much time we got. Just keep working, going to the facility. Same plan that we always been doing, because if you think about it, everything has been come up short.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located on the North Shore. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be a part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the legendary shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
It's about making the defense defend all the gaps across the field, C gap, D gap, E gap, and then sometimes expanding gaps. And it's not about what happens when you do it. It's about making them respected and maybe creating some interior run lanes as well. It's just a functional ball. It's not anything earth-shattering or even innovative at this point, to be quite honest with you. Everybody in football, every week I'm turning on tapes and I see jet sweeps coming from just about anybody in an effort to control those perimeter gaps and maybe create more space inside.
Do you think they've been effectively run this season?
At times they've been really effective. At times they've been popcorn. They've been hit or miss.
Jet sweeps and popcorn.
Never a good thing when he uses popcorn to describe something.
No, but I think it is something that's been utilized maybe more by the Steelers than any team that I've seen so far. But at some point, I get what they're saying, you know, move things around, give them something to think about. But I think sometimes you got to then sequence off of those and do something maybe different in that regard. And so we'll see. One guy who is going to be very involved, and no matter what they do, is George Pickens. You know, stages of that first quarter, I didn't see much of him. Second quarter, not so much. And then all of a sudden, he started making plays. He seems to, you know, whenever you give an opportunity, he's going to do it. He seems to be, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, a football junkie, so to speak.
Yeah, and he definitely keeps his head down. He works a lot. He's not very vocal, but he's definitely one of those guys that you can tell the players like to be around. And I do think every time he is given an opportunity, he is there to make the catch. Think about the game in Cleveland, that one down the sideline. I mean, he does crazy things, and it goes back to what we saw from him in training camp, even in college. He dealt with that injury. The Steelers were able to draft him where they were, and some people are like, oh man, but you know, it's kind of looking out to be a really good deal in terms of the value that they are getting out of him. So I do think, you know, it's going to be great to see him and Kenny Pickett sort of grow together, and also to see him more involved in the offense, because it felt like, especially in the beginning stages of the season, we weren't seeing what we saw in training camp. And now with more opportunities and taking advantage and being a guy now that other defenses are going to say like, okay, that rookie has it, will be a good thing for the Steelers offense.
Yes, and Mike Tomlin spent some time today at his press conference talking about number 14 and what he brings to the table for the Steelers offense.
He loves to play football. He's a competitor. The guys that love to play football, it shows up in everything that they do. It doesn't matter whether it's something specific to their job. On Fridays, we field onside kicks at the end of practice, and Minka is always the last guy on the field fielding onside kicks. He loves football. He likes to work at it. He loves what's seemingly the drudgery. And I think you could say the same thing about George. He loves to play. He's excited when he makes plays. He's excited when other people make plays. He's good with the ball. He's good without the ball. He's a football player. He loves to play.
Yeah, he sees a lot of Minka in George Pickens, and that's a good quality because Fitzpatrick's always one of the last guys here to leave the facility, and he made a big play to save a touchdown, I thought, on one of those field goal drives at Miami. And he put a nice hit on, I forget who it was, but it jarred the ball loose, and I think it was Mostert. And next thing you know, they have to settle for 3. But speaking of Minka, that defense, they started slowly. You heard Mike Tomlin talk a little bit about, well, it's kind of a feeling out process with a new guy calling plays, a left-hand quarterback. But they really, you know, shut the door after that. Second, third, especially second half, no points. If you limit a team like that to 16, you should win games, Missy.
Well, and even just what they were able to do against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, the dynamic duo, what they were able to hold them to was not bad, considering what these two guys have been doing to other teams heading into this matchup with the Steelers. But I think Miles Jack put it best. It wasn't so much adjustments that they were necessarily making schematically after they were down 13-0. it was simmering down, is what he said, and saying, okay, here's what we need to do. And we've seen this defense be able to have all guys lock in and be able to do what they need to do. I think, they have been challenged to be this dominant defense that Coach Tomlin talked about in training camp heading into the season, and being whatever the team needs them to be. They needed to be able to stop Miami from scoring, but then also the opportunity to have 4 interceptions that went through the hands of 3 different guys. That's something that Coach mentioned after the game, and even today when he started his press conference, those missed opportunities was something that he felt really highlighted why they weren't able to get the win. And you could tell just Cam Sutton sat in the locker room with a towel over his head. Terrell Edmonds spoke to the media but was very defeated and mad at himself for not catching it. There were just those instances where you just think to yourself, if one of them stayed in their hands, how does this game change? What happens, and could it be different? So obviously it didn't, but those are definitely 4 opportunities that I'm sure all of them wish they had back.
You saw that defense by Edmonds on that long play there. I thought he's been very solid. Another guy who played well was Trey Norwood, second-year player. He came up, and that's the Steeler defense. If you're going to stop a team like this, you got to be sure with your tackling. He came up on a Gesicki play, slowed him down so that other guys can come and help out. I thought he was really good in this game, even though he got burned earlier this year in one of the long bombs in Buffalo.
Yeah, I think after the win against Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh, a lot of people asked, how can you transition what you did well there to this game? And it was fundamentals, tackling, sure tackling,
right.
And that is something that we did see carry over. A very different quarterback, a left-handed quarterback, a more mobile quarterback than Tom Brady, but the Steelers were able to do some of the same things, which really helped. But again, trying to keep the cheetah and the fast guys that they have on that offense, and even Tua himself in the pocket as much as possible. They did do a good job. Unfortunately, it was a little too late.
Yeah, Steelers lose that game 16-10. It was a very winnable game. So Miami ends a 3-game losing streak. The Steelers are going to try to stop a 1-game lose streak in Philadelphia on Sunday. When we come back, we'll talk about a word that's been used a lot, mobility. Both quarterbacks this week have it. How will they use it? We'll talk about it next right here on Pittsburgh CW.
Could your favorite casino app be even better and faster than ever? You bet. Because the all-new BetParx app has been built around what you really want. With easier sign-up, faster withdrawals, and all the slots and table games you love. Plus, make your first deposit and get a 100% bonus match up to $750. And 500 free spins. So, are all of your favorite games just a tap away? You bet. BetParx.
Just how frustrating of a game is this, especially knowing you guys did have some opportunities on defense to really make some splash plays?
Man, it's very frustrating. Just number one, because we didn't come out with the win. We did leave some plays out there. We got to take advantage of those, myself included. But just got to keep on building because we got to get some wins in the win column.
How do you turn the page from this one, take the lessons while at the same time say, hey, we got to move forward and turn our attention next week?
Really, we just got to look it in the eye. We got to be real with ourselves. We got to come out. We got to work. Everybody got to stay together. And we just got to keep on going in that right direction to eventually get wins.
Troy, we talk about those splash plays. Do you feel like maybe one of those interception, if we catch one of those balls for an interception, this is a different story?
You never know. We definitely got to take advantage of them because it could have been a turning point in the game, and it could have helped us out in the long run.
I know you guys obviously are on the other side of the ball, but when you see your rookie quarterback driving down the field, has a chance to kind of, win the game for you guys, or at least put you guys ahead. What did you see from him on those final drives?
Man, we fully trust him. He's out there. We're going to ride for him regardless. So, we just was hoping for the best. We knew that he was going to drive the ball, and he gave us an opportunity to at least get down there and possibly make a touchdown right there. It didn't turn out in our favor, but, we just got to keep on fighting.
Frustrating, man. We had a lot of winnable games, and we just got to figure it out in the fourth quarter.
What do you think it's been that you guys can't get in the end zone? You can't get anything, any momentum?
I don't know. We just got to look at the film and figure out how we can execute better there. Don't have an answer for you, to be honest.
When you guys are down there and you need a late score, that's a big spot for a young quarterback. What did you see from Kenny in those moments?
Yeah, I thought he handled himself well. He's going to be his toughest critic, and just got to learn from mistakes and go figure it out from here.
As a Main Street bank, PNC has helped over 7 million kids develop their passion for learning through our Grow Up Great initiative. And now, we're providing billions of dollars for affordable home lending programs as part of $88 billion to support underserved communities. including loans for small businesses and low and moderate income areas. So everyone has a chance to move forward financially. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you.
You know, it's always a component of it. When you got a quarterback with extreme mobility, sometimes you have a wide receiver reflect certain components of their offense, knowing that you're losing the passing component. It's not anything new. It's old hat. It's issues that you sort through when you're dealing with quarterback mobility. We have extreme quarterback mobility in our division, so rest assured we have experience in terms of that discussion.
And over the years, Mike Tomlin and his defense have done a pretty good job containing Lamar Jackson. And so when you have to do that twice a year, it does carry over. And this guy, Jalen Hurts, though, he's been doing it. His passing from year 1 to year 2 has been tremendous, leaps and bounds better, but he still gives you that run component. They have 13 touchdowns as a team. I think that leads the NFL rushing. He has 6 of them, Missy.
Right. And also what he's able to do in the air. They're undefeated for a reason. As Coach Tomlin said, it's not hard to turn on their tape and see those reasons why. The turnover differential, plus 12, that's huge. And only 2 interceptions through the first 7 games. They obviously had their bye, so 6 for them. Definitely something the Steelers have to be cognizant going in. As we said, you know, going back to Kenny Pickett's performance and the 3 interceptions in Miami, you just cannot turn the ball over and have to take care of it, especially against this team.
You see big Dallas Goedert in play, another tight end who they use quite a bit. You see rolling, and you know, guys like A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, they give you a good complement. One can do inside work, one can go deep. They both can do it deep if need be, but I think those slant patterns you see are something they like to use a lot in that offense in Philly.
Yeah, and I think the Steelers defense, as you said, having the success that they have had in previous years against Lamar Jackson, knowing they've put 2 games back-to-back together. I know everyone's down on the missed opportunities with the interceptions, but I just feel like schematically what they've been able to do, especially with the next man up mentality and getting guys back, having Minkah in Miami after not having him against Tampa Bay. There are some injuries to watch this week in terms of Levi Wallace, but still, I think, you know, that group has definitely started to form the bond of being able to be what they need to be to help teams. We
haven't talked about the 4-1-2er over there, Miles Sanders. He's a guy who's had a nice role with that team, and he's really developed into somebody reliable. Although I know the Eagles are still, you know, when you're 6-0 at the trade deadline coming up, you're probably looking at opportunities to help your team. They were supposedly in on the Christian McCaffrey thing, but Sanders is a very good running, very smart.
Yeah, and I think just what they've been able to accomplish. I think, as you said, the trade deadline, it's crazy that we're already at that point. We've seen some movement as well with the Jets just yesterday, but I think their offense around Jalen Hurts, just somebody that just adds a different dynamic. And I think, you know, coming out of last year, maybe not a lot of people thought they'd be in the place they are now, but it has been impressive, and hopefully the Steelers are the ones to ruin their perfect season.
Nick Sirianni, the guy who's had ties to Pittsburgh, of course, was a wide receivers coach at IUP. Long history of success as a coordinator and a quarterback's coach. So now he got his opportunity. He's done a very good job in year 2, having this team at 6-0. All right, we'll take a break. We'll update the health situation of these Steelers, who may play this week, who may not, and looking longer term about TJ Watt and Calvin Austin III. That's when we continue right here on all Steeler digital platforms and Pittsburgh CW.
Game starts at 20, best slip is empty. I gotta call KG.
KG, what up? I got nothing for you, Fox. Oh, come on. Jalen. You wanna tell? Yeah. Don't call somebody on live TV.
Well, you answered. I have other friends anyway.
Marshawn, Barry.
Listen, I need some tips.
I like L.A.
L.A.?
No, Dallas. That's
Dallas.
Dallas not
Dallas?
the fit. We gotta get to Miami. How about Detroit? No, Barry over there.
You know what? I'm gonna call y'all right back. Vanessa.
I got a tip for you. Always go with your gut.
I like that. Let's go with our gut.
When we came in here, we made our necessary adjustments. You know, we just tried to stop them. I think that's a testament to who we are. Steelers football. We're gonna play the game. No matter, we're gonna play the game hard and fast and smart, no matter how the first half went.
Has the defense figured something out here in the last 2 weeks? It seems like secondary as a whole is just playing at a different level than it was against the Bills.
I think we're just keeping it simple, and that's allowing us to play fast, play smart, and just be us.
Mika, this is a defense that really capitalizes on turnovers and interceptions. Is that kind of like the storyline today, where you guys had so many opportunities out there?
Yeah, I mean, your chances, we got our hands on, I think, 2 or 3 balls, and we didn't make the plays. You know, those are game-changing plays. They take points off the board for the opposing team, and you know, gets the ball in our offense hands. And we didn't do that today.
How frustrating has this kind of been? It seems like the same storyline, like every time we come in here.
You know, it's frustrating, but we're doing good things, and this is the point in the season where we could either come together, come closer, and let it bind us together, and then move forward and just start stacking wins, or we could let it hurt us and you know, start pointing fingers and letting it splinter us. But you know, good teams always come together in times like this.
Do you feel like this offense is getting closer?
Yeah, I think we're getting closer, man. I think we're getting closer. I think a lot of guys are finding their roles in offense. Like I said before, we just got to cut out a couple things and, you know, just keep finding ways just to get better.
Is there anything you could take away from it? At least you guys were moving the ball there, especially those last couple drives.
Yeah, we were moving the ball, man. Is there anything we can take away?
Yeah, I mean, is there any kind of positives you can take away from the fact that you were able to move the ball and just, like you said, penalties and maybe some mistakes there?
Man, we lost the game, and we moved the ball. We know we can move the ball, and we don't think that we can't. We know we do. So, I mean, it's just finishing.
By the time this Steelers fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Steelers watching. Better with Pepsi.
From a health standpoint, Levi Wallace is being evaluated for his shoulder. His availability is in question. Josh Jackson has got a groin. I don't know that his availability is in question, but it may affect his participation at the early portions of the week. Some guys that are on IR, like T.J. Watt and Calvin, I got no update. As I sit here today, their inclusion this week is highly unlikely, and so there's no news there.
Missy, that's not a surprise to hear Mike Tomlin talk about T.J. Watt. I think that's the expected time of return after the bye week. But Austin, his 21-day window started 20 days ago, and tomorrow is day 21.
Yeah, this is somebody that everybody had high hopes for coming out of the draft, even in training camp, but was never even able to go in a preseason game. Right. So I feel like at this point we might have to wait till next training camp to see him again in next season. But two other guys Coach did not mention. Ahkello Witherspoon was dealing with that hamstring injury. Steve Smith as well did not play in Miami. Curious to see if they're able to get them back as well this week. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye.
Sims was a big contributor in that Tampa game. And to get field position switched like that, especially in a game where there are not many turnovers, I don't think either team made it, is a big shift changer in a game like that. So hopefully he can be back. And that's going to do it for our show. Missy, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Look forward to seeing you next week. We got a bye week next week, but before then it's the Steelers and the Eagles. The game is coming up on KDKA, 1 o'clock. Our pregame begins at 11:30 a.m. And we'll see you next week right here for another Mike Tomlin press conference.